Imagine attending your first orchestral concert. You walk into a formal concert space, surrounded by musicians playing music you may have never heard before. You might enjoy it, but you might also wonder, what am I supposed to listen for? When do I clap? What is that instrument doing? Inside the Orchestra is an interactive introduction to classical music designed to answer those questions. Rather than simply asking audiences to watch an orchestra perform, the project invites them to explore, interact, and engage with the musicians and instruments themselves. The goal isn't to simplify orchestral music, but to create a welcoming entry point for people who may never have experienced it before. So, why is there an opportunity for this project? In 2025, 74% of Australians attended at least one live arts event or festival, while 10% attended musical theatre, cabaret, or classical music events, representing a 3% increase from 2022. This suggests that Australians are engaging strongly with live art experiences, while classical music is also reaching a larger proportion of the population. So, the question behind Inside the Orchestra is, how do we turn that existing interest in live experiences into greater engagement with orchestral music? Rather than assuming audiences need to be convinced that classical music is interesting, this project focuses on making the experience more accessible to someone encountering it for the first time. There are several barriers that can prevent someone from taking that first step. Unfamiliarity can create the feeling that someone doesn't know enough about classical music. Formality can make people uncertain about the expectations of attending a concert. Cost can be a significant barrier, particularly for younger audiences. And finally, passivity can make it difficult for a first-time listener to understand what they are hearing or why particular music choices have been made. So, the problem isn't necessarily the music itself. It's the barrier between being curious about orchestral music and feeling confident enough to experience it. Inside the Orchestra addresses this by changing how audiences encounter the orchestra. The experience is structured around 3 stages: before, during, and after the performance. Before, audiences can explore instrument demonstrations, meet musicians, and visit pop-up music stalls where they can see and potentially try instruments and equipment. During, a conductor or presenter guides audiences through the orchestra using short explanations, musical excerpts, and demonstrations. Audiences can hear how different sections work together, why composers make particular choices, and what they can listen for. These explanations then lead directly into a complete orchestral performance. Afterwards, audiences can explore individual music sessions, ask questions, and meet the musicians. This allows someone fascinated by the trumpet, for example, to actually speak with the brass players, while someone interested in percussion can explore that section. This experience, therefore, continues beyond the final note. The primary audience is families, young adults, and students, particularly first-time concertgoers. The project is designed to be accessible, social, interactive, and suitable for all ages without requiring previous musical knowledge. The secondary audience includes young musicians, schools, and the wider Brisbane community. This also creates opportunities for emerging musicians to develop performance, communication, and educational skills while engaging directly with the audience. Importantly, Inside the Orchestra isn't only for people who already consider themselves classical musical fans. It's for anyone who's curious enough to give orchestral music a try. The proposed event location is the Suncourt Piazza in South Bank. The Piazza supports the concept because it provides a more informal and community-focused environment than a traditional concert hall. Its accessible location and existing performance infrastructure provides a strong foundation for the event, while the space also allows interactive activities and music stalls to operate alongside the performance. Rather than simply being somewhere to put the orchestra, the venue becomes part of the audience development strategy. The initial event could operate as a weekend or school holiday event, targeting families, students, and young adults. If successful, the event could develop into a recurring Brisbane experience. Inside the Orchestra would also operate through collaboration rather than trying to provide every resource independently. The Queensland Conservatorium and its Conservatorium Symphony Orchestra could provide emerging musicians and performance opportunities. Selected Queensland Symphony Orchestra musicians could potentially participate as well as guest presenters, mentors, or demonstrators, providing professional experience without requiring the entire professional orchestra to be engaged. Queensland youth orchestras could provide connections to young musicians, families, and wider youth audiences. Music retailers can contribute instrument demonstrations, pop-up stalls, and potential sponsorships, while schools and community ensembles could assist with the outreach. These partnerships distribute resources, expertise, and audiences across existing organizations, making the project more feasible while creating value for everyone involved. From an enterprise perspective, Inside the Orchestra needs to be more than an interesting concert idea. It needs a sustainable financial model. Potential income would come from ticket sales, art grants, sponsorships, and industry partnerships. Accessible family and student pricing would help maintain the project's focus on audience development, while grants and sponsorship could help subsidize participation. Costs could also be reduced through partnerships with existing orchestras and organizations, the use of existing infrastructure, and volunteer support. Using the Con Symphony Orchestra for the event, with selected professional musicians contributing as mentors and presenters, would also avoid the cost of engaging an entire professional orchestra. This means partnerships aren't simply promotional. They're part of the project's financial feasibility and sustainability. Overall, Inside the Orchestra creates value across 4 areas. Artistically, introduces new audiences to orchestral repertoire and helps them understand how an orchestra creates music. Socially, creating a more welcoming and inclusive environment for people without previous musical knowledge. Economically, creating opportunities for audience development, ticket revenue, sponsorship, and future partnerships. And professionally, it gives emerging musicians opportunities to perform, educate, and communicate with the wider community. The event could also be evaluated through ticket sales, audience demographics, first-time attendance, and post-event feedback. This would allow the project to be refined before expanding. The long-term vision is to develop the model from Brisbane to regional Queensland and potentially beyond, adapting it to local musicians, venues, and communities. This makes Inside the Orchestra not simply a one-off concert, but a potentially adoptable audience development model. In the end, Inside the Orchestra isn't about telling audiences that they need to understand classical music before they can enjoy it. It's about giving them the opportunity to discover it for themselves. The orchestra isn't something audiences simply have to sit back and watch. They can explore it, they can question it, they can meet the people behind it, and ultimately, they can become part of the experience. By combining live performance, interaction, education, and community partnerships, Inside the Orchestra creates a different entry point into orchestral music. Don't just listen to the orchestra, step inside it. Thank you.